Hello rational-minded people, welcome back to my channel Pale Blue Thoughts. It's been a long time since I debunked any video on the internet, so I was thinking if there were any new pseudoscience out there when I saw this video by a famous spiritual guru. The way he was belittling science while using all the products of science made me cringe. And to hear the applause of a confirmation biased audience just added to my misery. It left me thinking, when will this country ever grow up and progress? When will this country abandon superstitions and start to accept science as the only trustable way we know so far to understand the universe and reality? When would our children start to question everything and seek answers using the scientific method? I don't know, and I have no hopes of seeing that in my lifetime. Not with these kinds of spiritual gurus ruling the roost. Anyways, enough of my rants and let's go to the video. But before that, a disclaimer. My intention is not to discredit the speaker in any form, but to bring out the fallacies and disinformation that he churns out with confidence. Off we go.
हमेशा साइंस अपने आप को अपग्रेड कर रही होती है, बता रही होती है। पहले जो बताया था ना, वो गलत था। ये तो बिल्कुल वैसा ही हुआ। मानो एक बहुत सारा बड़ा सा बॉक्स है, बॉक्स में बहुत सारे कबूतर हैं। अब कबूतर को मुझे पता नहीं कौन सा कबूतर है। अच्छा, कबूतर निकालते हैं, काला कबूतर, काला कबूतर, काला कबूतर, काला कबूतर। ओके, एनसीईआरटी में छपा दो, सीबीएसई में पढ़ा दो, कबूतर काले होते हैं। काला कबूतर, काला कबूतर, काला कबूतर, सफेद कबूतर, सफेद कबूतर, छुपाओ छुपाओ। ओके, एनसीईआरटी में छपा दो, सीबीएसई में पढ़वा दो, कबूतर काले भी होते हैं, सफेद भी होते हैं। काला कबूतर, काला कबूतर, सफेद कबूतर, सफेद कबूतर, नीला कबूतर, नीला कबूतर, छुपाओ 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 छुपाओ। नीले कबूतर में निकल रहे हैं यार, क्या करें भाई। एनसीईआरटी में छपा दो, सीबीएसई में पढ़ा दो, कबूतर काले भी होते हैं, सफेद भी होते हैं, नीले भी होते हैं। ये एजुकेशन है? ये तो मजाक है। लेकिन जो स्पिरिचुअल साइंसेस हैं, इट इज ऑलवेज एब्सोल्यूट। मॉडर्न किताबों का आता है एनलार्ज एडिशन, रिवाइज्ड एडिशन। भगवत गीता का है कभी एनलार्ज एडिशन, रिवाइज्ड एडिशन? नहीं सर, 700 श्लोक, 700 श्लोक, परफेक्ट। उसके अंदर कोई खामी नहीं है उसमें। सो दैट मींस स्क्रिप्चर्स आर द मोस्ट बोनाफाइड सोर्स ऑफ नॉलेज।
So you have seen this reel. I'm sure many of you may have seen it already. This is cut out from a longer video by someone to share. I was able to find the original video and I shall put its link in the description if you wish to see it. I won't recommend it as you will learn absolutely nothing by watching it, and you will just increase the views and the uploader's watch time and make YouTube show it to many others. A waste of your time and a disservice to the society. So when you watched the video, did you feel the same way I did? Were you able to spot the issues with the video? He starts off by saying that John Dalton first proposed the theory of the atom, which was overturned by Rutherford with his model, and then Schrödinger, and so on. He tries to make it sound funny by his Kala Kabutar, Safed Kabutar, CBSE mein padha do, NCERT mein chapwa do driving. But sadly, it just adds to the cringe. What he does here is he misrepresents the audience by saying Dalton was wrong, then Rutherford was corrected by Schrödinger, and so on. Then he uses this aspects of science to glorify his scripture by saying that it has been unchanged for so long, so it must be the truth. In reality, John Dalton was not necessarily wrong in his time, but his model was a simple and early representation of the atom, and subsequent discoveries and models refined our understanding. John Dalton, J.J. Thomson, Ernest Rutherford, Niels Bohr, and Erwin Schrödinger all made significant contributions to our understanding of the atom, each building upon the work of their predecessors. Dalton's billiard ball model proposed that atoms were indivisible, indestructible particles. He suggested that each element was composed of unique atoms and chemical reactions involved the rearrangement of these atoms. While Dalton's theory was a groundbreaking idea and a significant departure from earlier models, it was overly simplistic and did not account for the internal structure of the atoms. Thomson's experiments with cathode rays led to the discovery of electrons, negatively charged subatomic particles. He proposed the plum pudding model, in which electrons were embedded in a positively charged pudding or matrix. This model recognized the presence of subatomic particles within the atom but did not provide a detailed atomic structure. Rutherford's famous gold foil experiment revealed that atoms had a nucleus at their center, which was densely packed with positively charged protons. He proposed the planetary model of the atom, where electrons orbited the nucleus in a manner similar to planets around the sun. This model introduced the concept of a central nucleus and greatly advanced our understanding of our atomic structure. Then came along Niels Bohr, whose atomic model was like a simplified picture of how atoms work, especially the tiny particles inside them called electrons. He postulated the energy levels of electrons with specific and fixed orbits, quantized energy, and stability. So Bohr's model was like a simple staircase model for atoms where electrons can only exist on certain steps and can jump between them, releasing specific colors of light when they do. It helped us understand some basics about how atoms work. This model was a great way to understand what goes beneath everything, but it mainly worked well for simple atoms like hydrogen. For more complicated atoms, we needed a better model called quantum mechanics. Schrödinger, along with other quantum physicists, developed the quantum mechanical model of the atom. This model describes electrons not as particles with definite orbits, but as wave functions or electron clouds that represent the probability of finding electrons in specific regions around the nucleus. Schrödinger's model successfully explained the behavior of electrons in atoms and provided a more accurate description than the previous models. Now, John Dalton's model was a significant step in understanding the nature of chemical elements and reactions, but it was relatively simple and did not address the internal structure of atoms. He wasn't wrong per se. Subsequent scientists like Thomson, Rutherford, Bohr, and Schrödinger built upon Dalton's ideas and experimental evidence to develop more refined atomic models. While Dalton's model was foundational, it was not comprehensive, and later models provided a more accurate and detailed picture of the atomic structure and behavior. That is how science progresses. We start from a simple understanding of something, then as we conduct more experiments, we develop a bigger and deeper understanding of it. Gurus and science deniers often want to reach the final answer without the intermediate steps. That just doesn't work. You can't sit and meditate and hope for the right answer if you haven't followed the process. To build a house, you need to build it brick by brick. It cannot appear poof out of thin air on one fine day. There is a journey that one needs to take to reach the final destination. We may take some wrong turns during the journey, but if we keep at it, we shall reach the target one day. I have heard some other spiritual gurus take the case of Newton and Einstein to make a similar point. Newton proposed the theory of gravity, and Einstein came and proved Newton was wrong. Newtonian theory wasn't wrong, and we can still use it almost everywhere and can even use it to make predictions even today. The orbit and motion of Uranus, when it was first discovered by William Herschel, were calculated using Newton's laws of gravitation. The discovery of Neptune is a remarkable example of the power of mathematical prediction based on Newtonian physics. The planet Uranus, after its discovery, exhibited slight irregularities in its orbit that could not be explained by the gravitational influence of known celestial bodies. French mathematician Urbain Le Verrier and British mathematician John Couch Adams independently calculated the existence and position of an unseen planet that could explain these irregularities. While the discoveries of Uranus and Neptune themselves were not directly made using Newtonian physics, the understanding of their orbits, motions, and the prediction of Neptune's existence were strongly influenced by Newton's laws of gravitation. So Newton wasn't wrong. His theory can still be used to predict the motion and orbit of all celestial bodies except the ones which revolve close to a huge mass, say Mercury's orbit around the Sun. That is where Einstein refined, and I mean refined, Newtonian theories with his relativity theory. Newton wasn't wrong. Einstein enhanced the accuracy of the theory further. Further in science, there are no authorities or gurus. Even a patent office clerk has the chance to dethrone the father of physics. All he needs to provide is evidence. The phrase "science keeps correcting itself" underscores its commitment to seeking out the truth. Over time, scientific theories evolved to better explain the natural world based on new evidence. Think about the theory of plate tectonics. Initially met with skepticism, it is now widely accepted as a fundamental concept in geology, illustrating science's self-correcting nature. Think about the theory of evolution. When it came out, it created such an uproar in the scientific community. but today it is accepted as the best explanation for the biodiversity of life. Well, let me correct the statement. Accepted by anyone who cares to understand it and does not cling on to religious scriptures. Same goes for Einstein's special and general relativity theories and quantum mechanics. I have often spoken about how Einstein's theory was met with much skepticism, and a certain Arthur Eddington conducted a famous experiment during a solar eclipse which proved Einstein was right. He did it to disprove Einstein but had to eat the humble pie. This doesn't mean that science has always been right. There has been theories which were wrong and had to be replaced. Geocentrism was one. The ancient view that the Earth was at the center of the universe with celestial objects including the sun and planets orbiting around it was the prevailing model for many centuries. This theory was replaced by the heliocentric model proposed by Copernicus and later refined by Kepler and Galileo, which correctly placed the sun at the center of the solar system. In the 18th and early 19th centuries, the caloric theory suggested that heat was a fluid-like substance called caloric that flowed from hotter to colder objects. This theory was later replaced by the kinetic theory of heat, which explained heat as the motion of atomic particles and laid the foundation for a modern understanding of thermodynamics. The phlogiston theory, popular in the 18th century, suggested that substances contain a hypothetical phlogiston that was released during combustion, explaining why things burned and rusted. This theory was replaced by Antoine Lavoisier's work on the conservation of mass and the identification of oxygen as the key component in combustion reactions. In the 19th century, it was widely believed that there existed a medium called the lumiferous ether through which light waves traveled, similar to sound waves in air. However, experiments such as the Michelson-Morley experiment failed to detect the ether, leading to the development of Albert Einstein's theory of special relativity, which fundamentally changed our understanding of space and time. Last but not the least, who can forget how we understood the shape of the earth in ancient times? We all envisaged a flat model of our earth, even though philosophers like Pythagoras and Aristotle concluded through their observations that the earth was not flat but spherical in shape. Today we have conclusive evidence that the earth is in fact a spherical ball flying around the sun. Today's modern technologies like GPS and satellite communication would only work if the earth were a sphere. So why do science make mistakes? Because humans make mistakes and humans do science. And the less knowledge we have, the more chance to make mistakes. But as we improve our understanding of something, the tendency to make mistakes grows lesser and the ability to grow deeper into a subject increases. Simple logic. Pity how some gurus don't have this understanding. So how did we evolve to get a better understanding of our universe and nature using science? The answer lies in a simple, yet not so simple, 8-letter word: evidence. Evidence acquired through rigorous observations. It does not involve sitting under a tree or sitting inside a cave for obtaining a Wi-Fi connection from the supernatural world. It doesn't come through tradition, dogmas, or revelations. It involves going out there and getting your hands dirty by doing rigorous experiments. Science has a Wi-Fi connection in 5G and not a supernatural connection from the 5th dimension. And the real beauty of science is that it always tries to prove itself wrong. Falsifiability is one of the cornerstones of any scientific theory. You should have the chance to disprove any theory. And more importantly, it has always been science which has corrected itself. It was not a spiritual guru who proved science wrong that it had to change. Now think of this. Imagine you had made a mistake in life or a mistake in your calculations about something. Would you want to sit on it knowing it was a mistake, or would you want to correct it and move on so that things get better? Any sensible human would want to correct any past mistakes if they could. I don't understand this logic that these spiritual gurus use. They don't want you to correct things if one is wrong. What kind of thought process is this? They still want us to live like cavemen and doesn't want us to progress, just because their scriptures cannot compete with science. In this video too, he says that science cannot understand spirituality. Of course it does not, because it does not care about non-existent, nonsensical ideas. And to be honest, I would really like to know what method Mr. Acharya used to understand spirituality. Was it revealed to him through the Wi-Fi connection, or was it through the scriptures? Anyone can make up claims, but to back it up with convincing evidence, that is where the real challenge is. And science lets evidence lead. It goes where the evidence points to and does not lead the evidence where it wants to go. He ends the reel by saying that the scriptures are the only bona fide source of knowledge. Yeah, I have heard this from the fans of all scriptures. To the Christians, the Bible is the most bona fide source of knowledge. For the Muslims, it is the Quran, and for the Hindus, the Gita. Now Mahaprabhu, which among these is the ultimate bona fide source of knowledge? The scripture which belongs to the religion you were born into, right? We all invariably adopt the religions of our parents, and for each of us, the one religion that we happen to be born into happens to be the right religion. All the rest are false ones. How coincidental, right? You are always born into the right religion with the right book. How charming. And what bona fide knowledge is there in the scriptures? Which scripture does not talk about genocides, war and violence, misogyny, unethical practices like subjugation of women, gender inequality, immoral acts such as slavery and casteism, incorrect notion about origin of the universe and life, descriptions of supernatural events, miracles and divine interventions that challenge the scientific understanding of the natural world? And more importantly, they all depict the knowledge of people of the times when it was written down. I find it very amusing that the claims that the texts contain ancient wisdom about modern knowledge appears only after science has found something. Never before. No scripture has ever made a claim in its texts which science has found later to be true. This is what I meant by leading the evidence where you want to go. The fans of the scriptures try valiantly to make the scriptures look scientific with claims that their texts contain the most scientific things. Please look up these videos that I have done where I have debunked some scientific claims in the religious books. Even when the gurus in question try to say that science cannot understand spirituality and God, some others are trying their level best to insert modern scientific discoveries into their scriptures. How ironic, right? And all such scientific information are usually hidden inside 2 to 3 lines of text with no context about the information whatsoever. Tell me, who would hide the distance from earth to sun inside a couple of lines of a religious hymn when the rest of the poem talks about something totally unrelated? Can you imagine a quantum mechanics textbook which contains an out of the blue 2 lines about evolution by natural selection hidden inside it? Can you imagine putting something indistinct about GPS technology inside the Alibaba and 40 Thieves book? If you are intentionally writing about a scientific information, you would need to put some context into it and explain it properly so that people would understand it. Take any science textbook and you will see the difference. You wouldn't hide any information in a vague manner in the hope that someone would find it after science has discovered or invented it. This goes for all such petty scientific claims in religious texts. Why would any god write something that is useful for humans in such an obscure fashion? Deeply hidden within a couple of verses in a book which is talking about something totally unrelated. What a stupid god would he be if he did that? No matter how much you try, all the religious scriptures contain only those information that people in that generation knew, and it was not possible for them to know something that we know today. That is because none of the scriptures follow the scientific methods of experimentation and finding answers based on evidence. So to say that the scriptures are a source of the ultimate truth is laughable, to say the least. If they are so obsessed with the past and history, why would these people embrace the new technology that science has to offer and use microphones and release videos on YouTube? They should be using the technologies which were found in the infallible scriptures. But no, they would most definitely want to embrace the new technology which is in fact a byproduct of science without any shame. Science in the last few hundred years that it has been around has given people vaccines, antibiotics, better transportation, communication systems, different forms of entertainment, better health and living standards, more food, clean water, you name it. Things no scriptures have been able to provide in thousands of years. While science has led humans in the path of progress, the scriptures have tied them up in the centuries they were written in. It's a pity that a person who was once a computer engineer has resorted to eating the fruits of science and cutting the roots of science. And I have sympathies towards the thought process of the audience who hoot and clap when they hear their Acharya spout nonsense. The fallacies that the Mahaprabhu uses here are appeal to authority and appeal to antiquity. I have done a video on appeal to authority, which I will link it up here and in the description. When someone tries to validate a claim or belief by asserting that it is supported by an authoritative source, in this case scriptures, he is doing it without providing any substantial evidence or reasoning to support the claim. In this fallacy, the person is essentially saying, because the scriptures say so, it must be true, without considering alternate source of knowledge, critical thinking, or empirical evidence. It dismisses other forms of knowledge such as scientific observation, historical research, or philosophical reasoning and relies solely on the authority of scriptures. The appeal to antiquity is a mistake in thinking where someone believes that something is good or right just because it's old or has been around for a long time. In other words, they think that if something has been done or believed for a very long time, it must be true or valuable. However, this is not always the case. Just because something is old doesn't mean it's correct or the best option. People used to believe and did so many things in the past that we now know are not accurate or outdated. So it's important to evaluate ideas and practices based on evidence and reason rather than simply relying on their age. So to cut the long story short, while scriptures simply claim to offer valuable guidance in matters of spirituality and morality, they are not the ultimate source of knowledge, especially when it comes to understanding the natural world. Science, with its empirical foundation and capacity for self-correction, stands as the foremost source for unraveling the mysteries of the universe and improving our lives. Recognizing this distinction allows us to embrace science and critical thinking and to shun the outdated Harry Potter stories in the scriptures. I hope you like this video. I request you to please share my videos on your social media so that it can reach more people. This channel needs your support to grow and spread the awareness of scientific temper. If you like my content and would want to watch more videos like this one, please subscribe. You can contribute to this channel by becoming its member or through the Super Thanks button, and I shall make sure you are recognized here. You can also use the Buy Me a Coffee or the UPI ID, which is linked in the description. I shall take your leave for today, but I shall be back with more exciting content soon. Until then, it's bye-bye from Pale Blue Thoughts.